Hello and welcome to Talk Speedway Weekly with myself, Scott Frame, and of course Mitchell Davey. On this week's show, we will be reacting to the championship playoff matches that have happened this week. We obviously just finished on BSN from the pool red card match. We'll react to that just in a moment. We'll also react to Bartosz Smarslik winning his sixth world title at the weekend, despite the fact that Brady Kurtz won five. I repeat, five Grand Prix in a row and still misses out. We'll react to all that. And of course, Dan Bewley, Robert Lambert will be discussing it all. Talk Speedway is brought to you in association with STS, Stakeford Tyres, and LVT, ESS, and of course, our associated partner in the Speedway Riders Benevolent Fund. As I say, joining me, Mitchell Davey. Mitchell, we've just finished watching. Pool versus Redcar. We'll discuss the Edinburgh Glasgow first leg of their semi final just shortly as well. But what did you think of tonight? I thought the last batch of races were excellent. I thought it was a good meeting. Redcar definitely hung tight in there, kept himself well and truly in it, made sure as least amount of last places as they possibly could, and I thought they were good value. Pool ultimately take the advantage into the second leg, but I thought Redcar were excellent.
Yeah, that's what it was. It was a great meeting, a real nail biter. You could hear the atmosphere from the fans in the stadium, and yeah, the track threw up some good racing late on. Once sort of the track settled down. I mean, Heat 14, I'm sure we'll delve into. That was phenomenal. But yeah, it was a really good meeting all round. Tit for tat. Minimising last places. Redcar obviously went there with a game plan. Is it going to be enough? I don't know. Obviously, second leg, Pill obviously had a strong showing earlier in the year at Redcar. So, but it's playoff speedway at the end of the day, isn't it? It's all for all up for grabs, and I guess whoever turns up on the day is gonna take that spot in the final. But either way, excellent night of racing, and yeah, thanks to BSN for being there to showcase it to everyone, and yeah, enjoyable watch.
Absolutely, it was. Richard Lawson, he was a man well and truly in form tonight. Actually, didn't look as if he'd be troubled. It's going to be an easy day for him tomorrow with that bike. Anyway, I don't imagine that will see any H2O tomorrow.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, that's what. Obviously, it's renowned. Obviously, Richard sometimes just doesn't partake in a bike wash, and I mean when it performs like that, why would you want to? Just I say to you, one of the races there, it showed him. I think it was when he was coming off gate 4, maybe his third race or something. He had to wind the clutch in a little bit, so just an extra half turn tomorrow on the clutch, and I'm sure he'll be ready to go.
Absolutely. We discussed with Gav last week in terms of the importance of the reserves in this match as well, and the red card boys certainly showed up. Thought Ace Piper was excellent. Well, you seen the start, the gate he made in Heat 2. For like he was very accomplished in that in Heat 2. I would say was probably the best way to kind of describe it. Textbook start. And I thought he was excellent. I thought Jody was excellent as well. Between them, they got paid 13. That's good form. And as I say, the Pirates probably maybe a wee bit disappointed in that department because ultimately, when the reserves start scoring points, it'll either keep you in a match or win you a match. Really.
Yeah, and I think big props to the Redcar reserves. I think obviously they kept Redcar in the match at the end of the day. But yeah, during the match watching it, I was thinking back to what Gav was saying about how they've sort of nourished Ace and Jody and
Yeah.
sort of, and even Jake to an extent, given them time, given the backing, and you could really see that in the confidence they were riding with. They knew they were capable of doing a job, and it was good to see for British youngsters. On the other hand, Will Cairns is a very confident character, but just didn't go his way tonight. He's got the speed, and I'm sure he's not going to miss 2 meetings in it. Like, not contributed in the away match at Redcar. So it's a very pivotal role the reserves play, and I think it showed tonight. And obviously, favoured Redcar in this front, but yeah, return leg still to come.
couple of things just to kind of pick through from the meeting as well. I think it was Heat 10 with Tobias Thompson, whose Peaky's helmet hit the tapes. It's really an interesting one, isn't it? Like the day and age we kind of live in now with TV replays and things like that. Because in the first staging, uh, Jason Edwards, I felt it was I know he's hampered by his own teammate, but he's realistically got nowhere to go on a first corner. I don't know if that's the definition of a first Ben bunching. I know it's not in a rule book in anywhere, but he didn't actually have anywhere to go, despite the fact that it was his teammate to do that. So I did feel, from a neutral point of view, that that was maybe a tad harsh anyway. But obviously, we got to the right decision in the end in terms of reversing back the exclusion of Jason and obviously Tobias getting pulled up for this, because it is something we've seen maybe over the last few weeks as well, Mitchell. Because I think it was at Berwick when Nikolai Clint, the peak of his helmet, actually hit the tapes there as well. And more, it then comes out the rule book stating that it's any part of you if it touches the tapes, because obviously he's jumped at the end of the day. He's tried to gain an advantage. So we eventually got to the right decision in the end, which ultimately, from the point of view of the day and age we live in, to go back to it, it is a good thing, because we get to what should have happened in the first place.
Yeah, you got to really reap the benefit of having live TV replay.
Yeah.
You know, because I mean, if the original result, obviously Jason out, and then there's a rerun and Tobias is in, he'll be thanking his lucky stars. But at the same token, yeah, he got caught. The video replay, showed that his helmet hit the tapes, and yeah, it's a known rule now. I think it's been that way for a couple of seasons now. So that's what it was, a big thing, and a big sort of, it was a weird point in the meeting, I feel.
Yeah.
If the result, that decision went either way with the referee's choice, it could have really swung things differently. But where you're saying, obviously, with Jason Edwards being sort of unfairly disqualified, I feel the referee set his own precedents by doing that to Paul Stark. He early in the meeting to avoid essentially burying himself into the fence.
Yeah.
Jason, to an extent, same sort of thing. So I feel that his precedence was set with that, and he had to stay by his word. He's done it once, he had to do it again. It was just unfortunate, obviously, that when he looked at the replay, Tobias's helmet, and then he had to revert back on that decision. So, good referee. Yeah.
I mean, I've got no arguments at all. I mean, at the end of the day, as I say, we got to the right decision in the end, and ultimately, that's all anybody's. I think the frustrating bit, and it's like this with a lot of sports, isn't it? Like, where you don't have the advantage when you're actually at the event live of seeing what actually happened. Ultimately, then it's down to staff at the track to relay what it is the referee's seen, what he's been watching, and the communication's got to be good at the actual the stadium at that point. But ultimately, I've got nothing against referees reversing decisions and admitting, right, okay, I got that here's what should have happened, so we're going to revert back to the correct decision. Because ultimately, if referees and officials admit mistakes, to go, right, well, I got that one wrong, and they're at a position, it's not as if. So what I then thought was, if Jason Edwards had stayed down, what happens then? Do you know what I mean? Where you get to a point where, is the referee going to look at the replay, exclude Tobias retrospectively? What happens there? So I don't know if the rules in there that what would then unfold after that. But ultimately, for the referee's sake, maybe Jason going down was maybe a godsend, because he could then correct the decision after that. So I've got nothing against all that. See, as long as we get to the right decision. It didn't exactly take forever either. It only took a couple of minutes to kind of work through it. Nobody's standing about waiting on the decision. Referees going humming and hawing. He was right there, decision made, and that was about it. Once they had maybe consulted the rulebook or whatever it may be, and I thought it was a fairly quick decision. And as I say, I've got no qualms with that, especially when you get to this time of the season and there's so much in the line. You you don't want it to be someone gets an advantage because of a bad refereeing decision. And ultimately, I've got no qualms with what happened and how it unfolded. Really.
Yeah, and that's essentially it. Utilizing the replays, what they're there for, achieve the right decision, and everyone's happy. No one feels hard done by it, albeit some people will. But yeah, I'm sure if you read the rule book, and I mean, no one wants to be that sad to read the rule book. But yeah, if well, for what I'm saying is, yeah, you understand the rules, and yeah, the first offence happened, which then nullified the second offence, as you'd call it, and that was it. We got to the right decision. We got a rerun. It was pretty quick. I think the hardest thing was trying to work out was Jason Edwards' decision being reversed.
Yeah.
But
common sense tells you it would, though. That's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah, and thank God, common sense was the winner in that one. So yeah, it was really good to see. And we're in 2020, 2025 now. The bikes have transponders and everything like this, and safety measures are right up there. So having TV replays, it's massive and a necessity, especially at this time of year when it's playoff season.
Yeah, absolutely. Got a few comments already. Ryan, who said, Mitch looking professional for a change. Maybe a wee nod to the fact that you were a bit scruffy at the start of last week's podcast, but yeah, you're all prepared. Took some time before we get started tonight. Emma has just commented saying, great meeting. I assume she's meaning tonight's meeting as well. Emma, you hang on till the end of the show because you were the fan of the week for the Fantasy Fours. So your team was selected for this week's Fantasy Fours and Voyance. So if you could hang on, make sure you keep watching to see how you got on. Gordon McDonald has messaged to say, how did the ref not see Toby Skip hit the tape in the first place? We've seen this with some original stagings of maybe races and stuff like that at first instance. I think what referees are possibly looking at is front wheels to see if somebody's moving at the start, and then once the tapes goes up, because tapes are not rock solid, I would probably say the fact that when they come up, obviously the middle part is the last part to react. Sometimes it can maybe the eye can deceive. So that, again, the benefit of replay there, I would probably give the referee the benefit of the doubt. And again, no qualms, got to the right decision. He probably realises he's got the advantage of having replays and stuff there anyway. So I'm not going to sit here and berate referees. Got to know quite a lot of them this year working at Berwick, so I see how hard a job firsthand they've got. So I'm probably a wee bit more lenient with referees now than what I would, because to take it back. Not to go a bit Berwick Bandits boring. If you looked at Heat 1 in the BSN meeting, if you looked at Nikolai jump to tapes, if you actually looked at the replay, Drew Kemp moved first, but never ever got a warning for it. So referees don't always catch everything, I suppose, even with the benefit of replays. Just again to kind of go through some of this meeting, there was some excellent racing, and I think back to Heat 14 when the race between Nick Morris and Zach Cook. For me, that was the kind of race of the night. Undoubtedly, there was no quarter given and none asked, and it was a sensational race and a sensational ride from Nick as well. I thought he was good tonight because on a couple of occasions we had said a couple of weeks ago what's happened to kind of team riding. I felt as if he was team riding with Jason Edwards quite well tonight as well. He was always on the lookout for him, make sure they were packing those kind of minor places. But I thought that Heat 14 was sensational.
One where we were just talking about where he showed a back.
Which led to him. Yeah. Maybe Nick was a bit overzealous with that one, but I'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
But yeah, Nick was he was good in that race, and yeah, I think someone made reference to him being on a Bucking Bronco, and it was a bit. And obviously he was lifting in spots, Zach was lifting in spots, and it just made for entertaining racing. And you never knew which line was going to be the quickest. Obviously Zach was making the inside line work, and Nick just seemed to have more speed at the end of the straights, I think, to capitalise. And I think once he sort of worked out where Zach was coming on, you seen on that last lap, he dropped it to the inside line just to cover that, to try and stop Zach's run. So some smart riding and some hard and fair riding. Made for great entertainment. And yeah, I'm sure there'll be a clip on the socials in no time, because it was a really entertaining race to watch.
Pick between that, and obviously that was happening at the front, but in Heat 13 as well, it was a great race. I felt as if probably the latter half of the meeting was definitely excellent. There was a lot more passing and stuff like that. It was definitely kind of entertaining. Obviously Heat 15 there, Poole getting a 4-2 just to extend their advantage there. But if we look at both sides really, not to get into too much depth, but if we look at the two sides, I mean, Richard, as we said, getting a 15-point maximum there, but ultimately Tobias Thompson was quite uncharacteristic. I think I went on record on the podcast kind of halfway through the season, really, in saying that Tobias was, if not the best kind of second string in the league, definitely up there as that. But for a home meeting for Tobias, it was definitely an uncharacteristic night for him. Only scoring kind of paid threes, we see, with that exclusion at the tapes as well. And ultimately, the tail was just maybe a bit long for Poole if they were looking to kind of get a bigger score on the board to take to Redcar.
Yeah. Tobias, after obviously watching Heat 1, you thought he was on for a big night. He was a great start, slotted in behind, rode a solid race, and at that sort of point, you're like, wow, that pairing's going to be strong all night long. And obviously Richard went on and kept up that level of riding for his 15-point max. But that's why Tobias sort of just dropped off and sort of made then all the races that he is with either Richard or in Heat 8, an equal heat or a heat loss as such. So uncharacteristic, especially around his home track. But at the end of the day, I think sometimes that's just racing. Did the pressure get to him? Maybe not. You don't know. You're not inside the rider's head. But yeah, it was definitely after a really good opening ride.
Absolutely. And if we take a look at Redcar, really it was a solid team performance when you look down the scores. Not one of the riders getting to double figures, not even paid double figures. When I look at the scorecard, Danny King top scoring on 9 points without a race win. So it was a solid evening for the Bears. I think that's characteristic to their season. I think we discussed after the meeting at Armadale and Glasgow, I think it was, when we were talking about the Bears and how they just seem to score solidly throughout, which then keeps them in a lot of meetings that you probably think that the kind of home team, especially away from home, I'm talking, that the home team could maybe stretch their advantage. But tonight was definitely a solid performance. I think what was that one? When I look at it, they had last places in Poole, put it that way. But definitely a solid team performance from Redcar.
You had 7. Was quite tight. They want to, if they can't win the race, they're more than happy to pack the second and third. And I think that's a really strong quality to have, especially in playoff season. Minimize your like sort of heat advantages for the other team. If you take a 3-3 at worst, that really isn't the worst problem you can have. Scorelines.
Yeah, absolutely. Liam has just messaged saying, "All right, guys." Hi, Liam. How are you? Chris Black has messaged. We'll just pull the message up on the screen here. Morris will be one of the most sought after riders this winter. Bargain of an average. Yeah, sought after, but let's see where he ends up. Kieran has basically had a bit of a go at me this week because obviously Mitch is looking better with his collar done, but Scott hasn't even got his shirt on. Yeah, it's winter. Can't get the clothes out in the line and dried quick enough week to week these days. So maybe need to invest in a second t-shirt. Now the first leg of the other semi-final took place on Friday evening between the Edinburgh Monarchs and the Glasgow Tigers. Now I know you were working at this one, so you wouldn't have seen a lot of. In fact, you've probably seen the last five heats. Come to think it, because Paco was well and truly done by about heat 10 anyway. But what I would say is, sorry, let's go back. Let's reverse back. Sorry, just one question. 6 points going to be enough for Poole?
Tough. The racers track. I think he went home as a like. I'm gonna go.
Yeah, right. Okay, we'll move on then. As I was saying, Monarchs. Paco was done by about heat 10. That's where I was at. Now, watching, I haven't been at the meeting. I actually feel as if Glasgow got away with one a wee bit here. Because at one point I genuinely thought Edinburgh were going to go on and win between 18 and 20 points. I genuinely thought that's the way that the kind of meeting was going. They manage to kind of claw back some points in the kind of last third of the meeting. They definitely dug in. A tough night again for Nikolai Clint, who was guesting for Dan Thompson. Glasgow went into this one with three guests, which is never easy. But Nikolai gets a race win in his last one, but that was the only points that he scored. I've just lost Mitchell, so we'll get him back. But just as I was saying, Simon Lambert coming in there at number two for Velas Nagel, scoring 4 points as well. It was definitely a tough evening for Glasgow on the night. But I have to say, absolute credit to Edinburgh. They handled the difficult conditions well because, as you've seen if you were watching on the BSN, effectively that downpour probably just about 5-10 minutes before the actual meeting started made conditions extremely difficult for all the riders. You've got to say a massive credit to all 14 riders for going out and kind of cracking on with it as well. But it did make the starts down to a premium, and I think Edinburgh 100% handled that a lot better on the night as well. But yeah, felt as if, before I get Mitchell back, if anybody's want to message in a question and they want to fire it to me, or here he's here, I definitely felt as if that Edinburgh could have been on and won by some more. As I say, Paco, you've got Mitchell back now. Paco started the meeting on fire, won his first three races. Mitchell, what was the guy saying in the pits? Give us a wee flavour of what was kind of going on in the pits, because I imagine the Edinburgh Riders management promotion getting a bit giddy, the Glasgow side of pits maybe getting a bit angry at the situation. What was the kind of vibe in there?
Tense, very tense. But at the same token, I don't know. That's what, obviously, mechanicking on the night, you're sort of just more involved with your rider. You don't really see what's going on and everything like that. Occasionally, you get a look at the score to see what's happening and what sort of position you're in. But there's different emotions at all points of the night. I felt Edinburgh started quite well. It seemed quite upbeat in that end of the pits, and then sort of felt like it went through a transition where Glasgow went through a time. You heard a bit of stress and a bit of commotion in the pits, and then it sort of started to swing back towards them. Mm-hmm. They started getting some results and pulling back some of the gap that was put in, and then it changed again, and then there's a few incidences where obviously, yeah, it was a weird one, tit for tat. Obviously a wet night, excellent time of year to be running Playoff Speedway.
Yeah.
But same token, both riders were presented with the same challenges, and it just became a matter of setting your bike up accordingly and riding like smart and sensible races. And yeah, that's what could have been more, could have been less. It's a catch-22. You can look at it either way. There was two in like I guess what you could call turning point incidences on the night. I don't know what heat it was, but Jonathan Grand was leading one of his races, and Shane, which went from then a 3 each to a 5-1 to Glasgow.
Yeah.
And then on the reverse of the foot, Glasgow gated heat 15 on a 5-1. Leon Flint unfortunately come down and ended up a 3 each, which they sort of swing in roundabouts, and it's good. And there was no, I guess, controversial points or I guess skullduggery or anything like that. It is a derby at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So it was good to get sort of the, I guess, fair result, and just each team had their own good luck and bad luck, I feel. And I think even though it's 14 points, there's a lot on paper, it sets it up again really well with the second leg.
Absolutely. So there's a couple of things here. I mean, what I would say is, although the track was wet, etc., this isn't an away team going to a track and they only go there maybe once or twice a year. Glasgow riders are well used to Armadale by now. They've seen it enough that this season for them to be comfortable on there, as comfortable as the home riders would be, I would say. It's probably the point that we kind of make to that, because I know there was some. I know there's some issues, but the track, the starts are the same. All these guys have ridden Armadale. Like it's kind of the same when you look through the league. They all race these tracks quite a lot. So we've discussed this when we were talking about a couple of weeks ago. Whatever happened to, like, people saying, there was a few comments that said whatever happened to a home track advantage. That's really kind of going for the sport slightly. Which is a good thing because it makes it more competitive. So that I would kind of say that starts with at a premium, but both sets of riders had to adapt to that. It wasn't you couldn't prepare for a downpour 10 minutes before start time and then go, oh, this is what the starts are going to be like. No one knows what the starts are going to be like by that point. I'm sure you'll agree with me with that, being the former rider on here. Like, nobody then knows what it's going to be like. Track walks are well and truly done. You're relying on the guys that are coming in for Heat 1 telling you exactly what that's going to be like as they go through.
Yeah, and that's what I went and had even a quick look at the track prior to the downpour, and obviously discussed with Paco about his thoughts for the bike setup, and then last minute downpour happens, and after that it was like, did we go the right way? Did we go the wrong way?
Yeah,
and there's a lot of up in arms, but I think that's where it come down to. Did you make the right call for your first heat? And there was, after that first run of 4 heats, everyone was changing something to make the bike better. They've been out there, they've tested the conditions, they've found out what the bike's doing. So there was work going on left, right, and center. And yeah, it's good when it's like that, because I feel it makes the riders think more. It's not so much we turn up, we do this. It's second nature. I like throwing that spanner in the works and finding out who's quick at adapting, who's good at making smart bike decisions. And yeah, it made for a really good meeting. A good vocal crowd again, same as tonight. I love hearing vocal crowds. That's one thing that we need more in the sport. Is hearing fans, hearing chants if they got any, and things like that. Obviously, not with the bad behaviour, which is obviously the ongoing dispute with Poole and Glasgow. Don't need that sort of behaviour, but we need loud support, home support, and even travelling support to support the riders and be the extra man in the team. So it was a good night. Someone said to me, that it could have been 20 or 22 points up Edinburgh had. But I think that takes the spice. It would have taken a little bit of the spice out of it. for the second leg. You know, past results Edinburgh have had, you know, the past 2 times they've been there at Glasgow have overturned that deficit. So I think that really sets up nicely. You know, it really sets up to be a really good match.
Absolutely. Right, I'm going to ask you a wee bit of a kind of insider kind of question, really, because it kind of speaks to what kind of how you set up your team before it all starts. Obviously, team managers submitting their team, and the way that it's set up, the race format. If you're at number 2, I think you're done by what, heat 10. If you're the home rider, if you're the home number 2, heat 10.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
given the way that Paco was riding, obviously winning his first 3 races, coming third in his last one, he would have been a prime candidate for me for Heat 15, because when I looked at it, I kind of thought to myself, I would have had Paco in there. Now, is it too big a gap if your number 2 is going well? Is it too big a gap in heats for like, I'm using Paco as the example just now? Is it too big a gap for Paco to know what's going on with the track to feel confident enough to go out there to score points against the top 2 from the other team?
Yes and no. I think the one thing, like talking Friday, for instance, so Paco had his 4 heats. He'd come off each gate, and he'd made the gate off each gate, which to me is huge. And especially when it comes down to Heat 15, you want a rider who can gate and get to the first corner first. So we felt a little bit hard done by, like, personally on that level, but obviously the team managers had seen something different that, you know, they obviously thought was going to be a better fit for Heat 15. And you also do run the risk of a rider being cold. You know, at that point, between 10 and 15, you've got 11, 12, 13, 4 races, a track grade, sometimes maybe even 2. You know, moisture at this time of year starts coming back up through the track, and your setup can be well off. You know, you're gathering information from the riders, but you're not gathering information from rider feel. And I think it is a big gap. Some riders can handle it, some riders can't. Yeah, that's what. Obviously, being wet conditions and the way Paco was gating, we thought he should have had Heat 15. They opted for a different, you know, take on it, and you know, that's their prerogative. They watch more races than what we do.
Yeah.
We only watch what our rider does. That's our view. So that's all we get to watch. So yeah, but yeah, with you saying obviously Heat 10 to Heat 15, a lot changes. So you got to be proactive and you got to be confident. You got to really back yourself if you want to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. 14, as I say, both sides had their bit of luck, bit of bad luck. I think my kind of, when I was watching, if it went to kind of 18 points, I would have said it was extremely difficult for Glasgow to pull back. But I think there's enough jeopardy in there to make this a classic. To be honest, with Glasgow kind of chasing that down, I genuinely don't know if it's going to be enough for Edinburgh. I th- I I think if it went to 18, I think it might have been too much. But I just think that 4 points is massive. I think Glasgow did extremely well to pull himself back in the last kind of third of racing, and keep themselves in it effectively. I know it's a bit difficult because you work for an Edinburgh rider for you to be subjective here, Mitchell, but 14, is it going to be enough? I know what you're going to do here. You're going to stick your arse well and truly in the fence, but I'll ask you anyway.
It's splinter time. For me personally, I don't think Edinburgh can be as bad as they have been. You know, they've been there to Glasgow, 3-4 times this year. If the riders can't get a bike set up by now to keep it close, then they deserve it. So, you know, it's up to the riders at the end of the day. I think enough, but you know, it's going to come down to track conditions. Who wants it more in minimal last places?
Yeah, absolutely. Chris's message is saying Glasgow escaped and will feel they may be favourites, kind of left the deal disappointed. Yeah, I got that vibe for quite a lot of Edinburgh fans. And Friday, actually, given the way that the meeting went, they were actually a wee bit disappointed that it wasn't more. But I think as well mixed in with feeling that it should have been more. There was a bit of hoping that hoping that it was more as well. I think that was kind of mixed in with it. And talking to a couple of Glasgow fans as I left as well, they definitely felt as if come the end of the meeting, the momentum was starting to kind of swing towards them as well. And Chris has followed that up as well, saying it should have been 25, Davey. Stop rambling. I don't think you're rambling, Mitchell. I think that's a very unfair comment, to be perfectly honest. Um, but
Expect nothing less from Mr. Black.
Yes, but we've got to look forward to these two semi-final second legs. I think they're finally poised. You've got Glasgow who've barely lost a meeting all year, 14 points down to the closest rivals. Don't think you could set that up any better going into that one. Redcar try to claw back a 6 point deficit at home to Poole as well. So these are set up to be absolute classics come the second legs as well. Really, really looking forward to them. Now, we know there's kind of KO Cup matches and BSM matches and stuff like that over the next few weeks. What I would say is that see until somebody gets to a final of some sorts, these competitions have dragged on far too long, so we're not talking about them until there's silverware between two teams, and we're going for a final. So we'll park them at the moment. We discussed last week, Mitch, the kind of first
Yeah.
leg between Ipswich and Bellevue. Ultimately, Ipswich eased their way into the playoff final. Last night's meeting between Leicester and Sheffield obviously postponed, but Ipswich were good value. I feel as if when after we discussed last week's first leg at Bellevue, I felt as if they'd put themselves in a strong position. Felt as if they would kind of ease themselves into the final, and so it proved.
Yeah, that's what a strong home sort of dominant display, and got the business done. They were there to do a job, and they turned up and did the job. And there'd be obviously question marks. A few of the Bellevue riders had different, I guess, different ideas and thoughts about meetings that were coming up after that leg, and again wet conditions. So there might have been a few safety switches in play, but at the same token, I think it's part and parcel with British Speedway. Everyone's, if you sign up to British Speedway, there's going to be wet meetings in that. So you're there to race and do the best for your team. So, I hope that's what the boys did. And yeah, but at the end of the day, Ipswich were too strong and got themselves through to the grand final.
I think it's obviously a topic of conversation at the moment, Mitchell, because we've looked at obviously Poole tonight was damp. I would say it wasn't completely soaking or whatever, where it was unraceable. Armadale was wet on Friday. Ipswich was wet on Thursday. What I would say is that maybe over the last few years we've had quite mild Septembers and stuff like that, so it's maybe not been as, for the want of a better word, moist as what what it's been over the last couple of weeks here. Because some of these meetings that we're talking about in terms of playoff finals and semi-finals and stuff, I mean, if you look back maybe 10 years ago, we're running these well into October, like well into October. Now, I know we're going to have October racing this year as well, which is not obviously, I don't feel as if that's ever ideal that we stretch it into October. September, I would normally say, is probably fine for Speedway normally. But I think, I don't know if it's the unusual weather that we've had in terms of it being it being as much rainfall. But it definitely, to me anyway, my own personal view on it is it does feel abnormally wet for September. It's normally, the weather's normally a bit better. Maybe it still is cold, but normally a bit better than what we're seeing at the moment. But does it? I'm getting into a kind of general sense, and I'm sure we'll discuss this through the winter as well, because I suspect there's a lot of changes in the horizon, or there should be a lot of changes in the horizon, and we'll probably get down to fixture overload at some point through these as well. But it kind of speaks to that. Do we have too much fixtures In the UK, I would definitely say at Championship level, yes. I think given the amount of teams that we've had in the Premiership over the last good few years now, I think racing one another home and away twice is overkill. If I'm being totally honest, because then if you're stretching into September, October for playoffs, to me it's too much speedway, and I never ever buy into this theory. I've heard so many promoters say it over the years, and I'll just say it the way it's nonsense, right? That you need a meeting every week. That people's habits change, people's going out habits changing, etc., etc. If you don't have a meeting on every week, Speedway's expensive, right? And the reason that the crowds are down is that one, there is too many meetings for everybody to go to every meeting. That's why that's why people are selective about the meetings that they go to. And I do feel as if less fixtures is not the death of British Speedway. Go for quality over quantity, and I feel as if running meetings we I think the thing is that we're shit out of options at this point. If you call a meeting off now, you have very few options about when you're going to run that meeting. If just now was your runoff, so to speak, or a runoff date for a previous call off, then fine. But if you're calling off in September and we're starting to run into October, we may as well just keep going, to be honest, until we get to March.
Yeah. And that's
I've lost Mitchell again. He was obviously overwhelmed by my point. I'll just take one of Chris's comments just that he posted just as we went off at the Edinburgh meeting there. 14 is tough. We really need to have Seji and Victor. Really need to have Seji and Victor score. They've struggled there recently. If they score 7 each, it will be good enough for Edinburgh. I definitely think it's going to be a tough one. I think the reserves have a big say in that. Jonathan Gran definitely feel as if he could be a trump card for Edinburgh against the Glasgow reserves as well. But it's going to take a big effort from the Edinburgh guys to kind of keep that going. I'm just getting Mitchell back now as I discussed that there. Sorry, Mitchell, I was just kind of filling the time until we got you back there. Yeah,
yeah.
floor's
I need
yours.
to put 20 Peter in the meter again.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. You know, there's so much downtime for meetings and things like that, and I think as if you're not someone that holds a season pass, it is a very sort of expensive. You know, there's a lot of fixtures to go to, a lot of this and that, and you are going to cherry pick. If you had, you know, maybe every second week you're running a home meeting, people
yeah,
can plan family holidays to suit so they can take in the speedway. You know, they're not just missing for the sake of missing. You know, people have things going on outside of the sport that, you know, they have, you know, weddings, you know, birthdays and
yeah.
everything
Real
like
life.
that. And and if it falls on a speedway night, you know, you're gonna obviously you got priorities of things that you have to do. So having a fixture every week is not the answer. I think you've summed it up quite well, and it's yeah, quality over quantity. And
Absolutely. What other sport has a home match every single week? There's on it, genuinely a team sport. I can't think of one. You maybe get in like the British Ice Hockey League where maybe one of the teams are playing at home twice in a week. But what they do then is that they kind of cut the cost of one of those matches so that you can afford to go to the two. But it doesn't always happen. They might not play at home then for the next 3 weeks if that happens. So there's all these different things. And Chris has actually just messes with a great point as well. See, if Speedway fans wanted more meetings to keep habits, they would go to the NDL meetings as well. Now we know obviously Edinburgh have got the academy team there as well, and they're always encouraging people to go to that. I suppose it's some people maybe don't want to go and watch that level of speedway, whatever that is. But I guess if you're a purist, you would probably go. But yeah, I mean, as I say, it is something we'll get into over a couple of podcasts because I'm quite interested to hear Graham Munsey's kind of view. on this type of thing as we look forward, because there is a few different things there. I mean, even at that as well, when you look at speedway leagues around Europe, teams don't race at home every single week in that either. So I do think, uh, genuinely, if they were looking to keep a Premiership and Championship as we have it, I think the only way forward for doing that is if you only have a meeting once every 2 weeks at home. And if I look at Championship level as well, with the amount of Friday teams that we had, if you had one home, one away, you would be able to accommodate all the Friday teams and stuff as well. Um, the people who would lose out of this is probably the riders, but again, you may attract other riders who wouldn't consider the UK because of how busy it is. So there's both sides of that particular sword. We will get into that over the winter and stuff like that as well. That seems like a bigger kind of subject for another time. A couple of bits of things in the news before we get to the kind of, obviously we try and break down the kind of Voyens Grand Prix. Mitchell, seen today now, obviously if anybody had heard our special with Brian Conley in regards to tracks and try to revive them and stuff, there's been some interesting news over the last couple of, well, week or so really. See the Lakeside one in terms of Google putting their planning applications in for the site at Thurrock. I actually seen Donald Trump had threw his weight behind that one as well, which I found quite strange. Donald Trump Speedway, like whatever. But hopefully the guys, the kind of objections there that they've got going. It was also announced today that it was looking doubtful that the planning for the site at the East England Showground in Peterborough was going to be accepted. I know the Forever Peterborough Speed page on socials had said that they're considering their options now as well. And having spoken to Brian probably a couple of hours before we come on, his exact kind of response to me was that they're considering their options and there'll be a response just shortly on that. But one of the key kind of words in there, Mitchell, was tentative. They're being tentative because with all of these things and what we kind of discovered for the podcast with Brian is that this is it's a moving parts constantly with the tracks, because we see Swindon as well. There's a lot of chat around that now, because I think we're getting to a point where it's either going to happen or it's not. Because if we're down to objection stage about them actually doing it, it would suggest that there's something in the pipeline in terms of it going ahead. I don't know that for certain, obviously, but with the Peterborough one, I definitely seen that as a positive step, and we can see where that's going to go over the next few months.
Yeah, lots of, I guess, positives and negatives about all these tracks that are, like fighting for their current land or fighting for new land. I see a lot more of the Swindon stuff from all the people that obviously I was friends with during the Swindon time. And the one thing I seen was a councillor petitioning against a motorsport venue, and I really don't get it. A motorsport venue is a place for family, friends to partake in sport, or to be involved in sport, whether that's in a you can become a mechanic or something like that, any type of sport. And I really, he was outlining it's bad for the environment, it's bad for the surrounding areas, and I was like, what? How? Like, I don't know. For me, I grew up at motorsport complexes everywhere, and it was great. You met loads of people, you had loads of fun, you had loads of good times, loads of great memories, and I think it's character building for people as well. It gives people an outlet, somewhere to go and enjoy something. And I don't see a speedway venue being bad for a community anywhere. It's only whingy, whining people that don't like noise, don't like, oh my God, there's traffic in my area because there's an event on. Get over it.
I imagine Swindon to be pretty busy with traffic anyway, regardless. is that part of the UK? There's a lot of traffic. Deal with it. That's just the way it is. But also exactly what you were saying there in terms of the councillors and stuff like that. No councillors or politicians. they're going to go on the side of where they'll get the most votes. So it might not even be his opinion on it, but ultimately what keeps him in a job is the side of the fence that they'll fall on, which is that's my take on it anyway.
Bunch of pushing Eeps.
Yeah,
I'm,
absolutely.
I'm motorsport.
Yeah, me too. I mean, at the end of the day, is to say what we spoke about in terms of with Brian and stuff like that. I mean, it does, there is obviously certain criteria, and especially if it's a green belt site and stuff like that, where it's got to be beneficial to the community and stuff. So it's up to the guys that are going to run that to kind of obviously show the benefits to the local and surrounding areas and the community, what not only Speedway can bring, but the other kind of activities and stuff that the site can bring as well. Now, a strange one that's popped up this week, um, Harry Redknapp. Now, if you had said to me last week that we would be discussing Harry Redknapp on here, I would probably have poo-pooed you, to say the very least. Now, I do
Is
find all of
he, is
this.
he
Is he what? Sorry.
is he coming on? Is he joining us?
Well, we have asked the question. We've reached out to certain people to see if they will come on. I'm not lying. I have asked, very much asked the question. I've been in touch with he's obviously got an agent and his management, so we've certainly invited him to come on to the show to see what his involvement is. Now, what I would say is that, not that I'm doubting anybody, but the statement that he's quoted in saying seems to be very AI generated at this point in terms of what Speedway is and what it would be. Now, obviously, his sons Jamie and Mark, being a big football fan, Jamie Redknapp's in his 50s. So if he took Jamie to the Speedway at Pool when they were kids, you're talking that's 40 years ago, right? So I'm skeptical at best with this. I'm being careful what I say, right? Because I'm not want to upset the powers that be, right? But I'm just a human being with an opinion, right? So
Well, they're
I'm
not
very what, Mitchell?
in the 80s. They were racing at Pool in the 80s, were they not?
Yeah, I mean, I'm listen. When
Yes.
you start, when you start,
So
when you start,
it's
yeah, I mean, I'm not doubting that he did go. I'm just saying that it was a hell of a long time ago when it's on his doorstep. I mean, Poole are the most successful club in British Speedway. Like, I'm sure at some point it would have been on his radar to actually maybe go, especially when you had the likes of Ricardson and God knows who else in your doorstep with one of the best riders to ever grace a track. It maybe have been the time to kind of turn up. But I am extremely skeptical. Sorry.
valid point. That's what
Yeah.
I get that one. Yeah. Why are you saying that?
Yeah, so here's where I'm at with it. Stevens just made a point. Don't sit in the fence, Scott. Right? Okay, I won't sit in the fence. Right? Here's where I'm at with it. Going by what Phil Morris had put out in the press release, because obviously there was a lot of questions when it was first released in terms of what is Speedway Futures Limited, etc., etc. Now, Speedway, if you look in Company's House, it's a company that was formed, and it wasn't formed yesterday. And Chris Lewis and Rob Godfrey are involved in that, right? So this is an existing company. It's not new, and it's something that Speedway fans up until this point, because it's never been highlighted, has probably never been aware that this even existed. Now, putting two and two together for the statement that Phil Morris had made, I would say that they've been looking for a figurehead or someone with a presence, a name to basically go out and say, we are part of this and we're going to make Speedway bigger again and better. Now, he did quote on this, and I double checked this. I've not double checked just before we come on, but I did double check today. Now, he quoted in this that about Harry Redknapp's social media, etc. Harry Redknapp's not posted a single thing about this. So if there was a big announcement that Harry Redknapp's going to be part of this and he's going to be he's excited about it, why is he not posting on his own social media about it? Why is he not doing that? So that makes me skeptical as well. There's a lot of things in this that just make me a wee bit. Harry Redknapp has always had the reputation as being a character of he's someone who won't try to do something unless he's making a buck or two out of it. And Harry, unless you're going to come on and correct me on this, you ain't making money at a speedway, buddy. That is never in a million years going to happen unless you're going to burn some money into it. You ain't making money out of this. So I would love to know. Like I've seen the generic comments on it. It goes deeper than that for me. Is it just a figurehead and just a name that we can hang on to try and create bang the drum a bit more? But we need somebody to bang the drum a bit more that knows what they're talking about. Like we need someone we need a promoter of some sort, not someone who's going to be in this for to try and make money or just being paid to come out and say the odd comment here and there. That's my take on it.
Yeah, I get 100% where you're coming from with that, and you've done your research to back it up. If Harry Redknapp was true about it, even if he doesn't run his own socials, whoever's part of his team that has agreed for this to go out in the national papers, you put whether it be a tweet or an Instagram post or a Facebook post, I don't know what socials he has. I don't follow him. I don't follow football. So for me,
to be fair, I'll quantify that.
I mean,
I'd only check his Instagram. I don't know if he's got any other social media. So before anybody pulls me up, I did only check his Instagram.
Yeah, but still, you're gonna put out your own statement, if people are using your name to, you're not just gonna let a news article go out and not have your own say on it. Is that right in saying? For me, that's what I like what you've done with that there. That feels like there's more to it, and I think if you are going to be a figurehead, or you got to actually talk about it. You want a video or an actual interaction with that person, explaining this is the sport, this is why I love it. This is what I want to do with it, and yeah, I get it. He's a big name, and are we trying to drag football punters across? I don't know. I don't know if it's their cup of tea. They like watching blokes dive around for nothing on the floor. So
I mean, actually, it's not often you would hear me say this, but I actually agree with Chris that he suggests it's just a bunch of nonsense and a PR ploy to try and get a TV deal. Ultimately, I think that's what Harry Redknapp is now. I mean, his days of being involved in football, even in punditry or whatever it may be, are kind of long. They're behind him now, and he's more in adverts. He's became since I'm a Celebrity. God, what are we talking about here? I'm a Celebrity. Harry Redknapp. What is going on? But since all that, he's became a public figure in the UK, and obviously that's all fine and well. But that means he's wanting paid for being the figure on it. I don't suppose he's going to sit in a room with Chris Lee and Rob Godfrey and talk about how to make Speedway better again when he's not been to Speedway in a minimum of 40 years. I mean, this is the bit. See if we got someone who was, say, famous, and I'm using that in quotations, and that's who we're putting forward as the new face of British Speedway, and I'm going to make Speedway brilliant again and be great again. You need to know something about it. You can't turn up after 40 years and say, oh, I'm going to make this better. It's quite arrogant for a start when you don't know anything about it. More up to Berwick. More up to Redcar. See Harry Redknapp standing at Shieldfield on a Saturday night? Don't think so. Don't think so. That's my 2 cents on it. Gordon has said, Stephen said you're bang on, Scott. Gordon has says, more chance of Harry Ramsden sponsoring my Speedway event. Aye, there you go. And Stephen, when we were talking about it being on social media, has said that it's on his MySpace page. So if you want to go and check out Harry Redknapp's MySpace page, you might catch something. You might catch something on there. As to what's going on with Harry Redknapp involved in Speedway. Any more thoughts on that before I move on? Because it's something I never thought I would discuss or get hit up about, but there you go. Yeah, let's move on to the real stuff in the real world. where Bartosz Smarslik became world champion for the fourth year in a row, sixth time overall, which is insane to actually think about, and discuss volumes. What the breakdown of that, because we'll get into with more of the guys as they come back, as Greg comes back off the harvest, Laura comes back for netball, and Graham comes back for dicking about in a gondola in Venice. We'll get all the guys back and we'll do a kind of review of the 2025 Grand Prix series. But for now, Brady Kurtz, we discussed it when we were previewing it. How can someone go and win 5 Grand Prix in a row and not win the world title? The look, his body language as he looked round as he was coming out the fourth bend, as he was going to cross the line to win his 5th Grand Prix in a row, you could almost, his body language was, I felt I was devastated from. I won't lie. Like as he looked round to see who was behind him, it was just you could see that for his body language, it was just devastated. But what I do think he needs to take away for this is just what an achievement that he's had this year. That his season as a rookie, only two, I think there's only 2 Grand Prix where he hasn't landed on the podium, and it's been an insanely good first season in the Grand Prix, and the consistency has been incredible.
Hardest thing is obviously the 5 wins came up against obviously Bartosz winning. So something that's going to be sort of overshadowed, but it's not been done. The amount of riders that win their first one and then struggle to win a second one.
Mm-hmm.
But 5 on the
Insane.
bounce, insane, and so dignified and just. But at the same token, yeah,
and we've lost Mitchell again. Somebody's going to need to sponsor Mitchell's Wi-Fi here as we go through all of this and try and break that down. Hopefully we're hearing Mitchell speaking about Brady there. But just to kind of go through this in terms of the Grand Prix and volumes, as I said, Brady Kurtz running out, winning his 5th Grand Prix in a row. From the British point of view, as well, Dan Bewley getting his first ever FIM medal, finishing in 3rd place. He finished in 3rd place on the night and in the standings. Absolutely incredible from Dan. When I look at basically from Manchester kind of onwards, he's been very consistent as well. Hopefully can keep that up and start well next year again. Come back again and really put it to both Brady and Bartosz, because you would expect, given the form that Brady's had this year, that Brady would be up there again, challenging Bartosz for another title. Freddie Lindgren, that meant missed out on the 3rd place on the standings as well. But the one that obviously we were keeping an eye on in terms of that 7th place and securing their 2026 spot was Robert Lambert. Now, Max Frick ended up only with 5 points on the night, which was enough for Robert to then take that 7th spot away from him and really secure his 2026 Grand Prix status for next year, which is absolutely fantastic for Robert. Obviously not the season that he would have envisaged heading into this after finishing second in the series last year, but he's got that reprieve now. He comes back, and I'm sure he'll come back in 2026 even stronger as well. So Michael Jepsen Jensen, a rider we're going to see a lot of next year in the series as well, finishing 3rd on the night, which was a fantastic result. Obviously didn't start the meeting very well, ended with 2 wins, sneaked into the semi-finals, and as we know with this format, the way it is with the last chance qualifier, if you can get yourself in front in that one, the qualifying races are all forgotten about. It's just about getting there and getting yourself into the final. managed to get himself onto the podium, which was incredible for him. Don't forget, just give us your thoughts on Saturday evening as well, and obviously Bartosz winning that sixth world title, as we say, absolutely incredible feat from him. Obviously, one of the greatest riders to ever grace a track or put his leg over a bike, so it was absolutely insane. To think that over the last 7 years he's won six world titles, it's absolutely incredible consistency from him. And as you say, sorry Mitchell, you ducked out there. I just see you're back with me now. In terms of we were talking about the consistency there, but you were obviously chatting about the consistency of Brady during this run in terms of his challenge to Bartosz. But when you actually think of Bartosz's his consistency as well, 3 Grand Prix wins. He's finished second 5 times as well, which when you manage to get some sort of a lead, if you can just hang on to it, and I mean, it's not even just the consistency this season; it's just his consistency, full stop. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's hard to get to the top, and then it's even harder to stay at the top. And it's something that he's done, year in year out. And I think the biggest thing you can say about Bartosz is, yes, he's fast. He's incredible to watch. His style is, things he does on the bike, I can only dream of doing, and I'm sure a lot of other riders can only dream of. So, you watch that, and he's just always there. He nullifies those bad rounds, and he minimizes the damage of his bad rounds. I think that's the biggest thing. That's what keeps him always in the hunt. He never has an exceptionally bad round. It's always there, or if he does miss out, it's minimal.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the biggest thing that keeps him in the hunt and keeps him being able to fight for all these titles. And yeah, that's what it begs the question: can he be stopped?
Yes. All good things have
Yes.
got to come to an end at some point, Mitchell. That's the thing.
But,
Nothing lasts forever.
but when? Is it
Yeah,
next year?
I mean, no,
Oh,
probably not. I don't think so. But I mean, when you look at it, but really, from the last kind of 5 Grand Prix that we seen, the only chink of light that Bartosz actually gave Brady was in Riga when he finished fourth in the final when Brady won. So that was like, see, when you think of that, that's like a bad night for Bartosz. He's fourth in the final, just gave Brady that chink of light, but really. Again, like when you look at it, what I would say is that from the series overall, it was brilliant to have some jeopardy going into the last Grand Prix, getting into the last heat of the season. It literally came down to the last heat of the season, and see to have that now after a few years of not, I think when only really when Laguta was challenging Bartosz did we have it going down to such fine margins. It was just brilliant to have a real championship race.
yeah, that's what we were at a friend's place, and you sit and you think, when was the last time it came down to the very last Grand Prix race? Yeah, it happened when it was a one-off night, but to do a full series and for it to come down to that very last race was incredible and nail biting. And I would have hated being in either one of their shoes. Obviously, I'd say, well, they both sort of had an objective. That's what Brady, it was win or bust, and Bartosz was, if he wins, second or bust. Yeah, they both knew, I guess, what they had to do. And I a good point that I really enjoyed about that final was that Brady didn't look a lap, 2 laps earlier and try and slow the race down or anything like that. It was just what will be, and I think it made it better in that sense. There was no one put in a dangerous situation that they didn't want to be in, and things like that. It was it was just, yeah, what was going to be will be, and it was really enjoyable and tense, and a fitting way for the season to end. I don't know, a fitting way, yeah, on an
I
Australian note would
think
have been to
what it does do is it sums up the season quite well. It like the ending of at the end of that Grand Prix probably sums up the whole year really for me. And as you say, we spoke about sliding doors moments, Prague, etc., last week. We also, I don't want to be the smug guy, but what was that we said in the Grand Prix preview? I think my exact words were, I can see the final happening now. Brady makes the start and Bartosz race through traffic to get second place. They were my exact words, by the way, and it ended up
yeah,
happening. Know how much money I had in that?
none.
Exactly.
Yeah, you know, we would have put money on it, it wouldn't have happened. And
Listen, I
yeah,
know. Let's be brutally honest. I've broken clocks right twice a day, so I was due to be right at some point in my life when it comes to all
you
these
say the
predictions.
come, it'll happen.
Yeah, if I say it enough, it'll happen. It'll happen. McDonald has just said we just need a couple more GP riders to raise the level next year to make it an even better series. I would agree with that. I mean, a rider we're going to move on to now is Dan Bewley, because obviously Dan, as I was saying when you had cut off, great for him. He's secured his first kind of FIM kind of, I think, podium place, if I'm not mistaken, in terms of claiming the bronze medal. If I'm assuming I'm correct with that. I can't remember that he's ever won a medal before. Um, Nevertheless, I'm finishing in third place in the series overall. I think he's shown a terrific level of consistency, especially from kind of his win at Manchester. Obviously, the second night wasn't what he would have wanted or expected, but since then he's been fairly consistent in and amongst the finals, in and amongst podiums. And I think this has been a great year for Dan. I think it'll do. What one thing I would say is that I think it will do him well to get over the to when he's chasing down Lindgren for third spot, and actually to overhaul that and then get over the line to get the medal. I think when you talk about steps in your career and stuff like that, I think that will do him the world of good to that he has managed to do that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I agree. Like the second half of the season, like for Dan, was a hell of a lot more consistent, and I think that's obviously where he started to build momentum, started sort of climbing up the points ladder, and getting to that third position. It's massive, and I really hope he can build on that for next year, because he's been tipped for years now to be the one to challenge Bartosz. So I think, like you're saying, it's a good stepping stone. It's solid steps in the right direction for him. Um, yeah, can he piece it all together next year and become a world championship contender? I'm sure he hopes, and a lot of his fans hope. So yeah, the more you can have challenging for a title, the better. It's always
Yeah.
going to be hard to do, but you just want those ones that they can throw a curveball here and there, and you know you want Bartosz out of that final every now and again to make the points even tighter.
You definitely do. The, to kind of emphasise how big the gap is, though, I mean, he did finish 41 points behind Bartosz. So I mean, there's quite a gap for Dan to bridge here. I mean, if he finished 40 points behind Brady as well in second, so there is a gap to bridge. Um, but if I was looking down the list of riders that were most likely then to break out the pack to challenge both Brady and Bartosz, Dan would be the rider that I would assume. But then again, when we were talking in the winter, I said that Robert Lambert was going to be, he was the kind of most consistent to then chase down Bartosz as well. So I guess at this level, there is a air of unpredictability, but the one thing that is predictable is that Bartosz will be there. Hopefully Brady, he doesn't seem this type of character, but hopefully he doesn't get too down on himself in the fact that he's had such an incredible year, but still didn't manage to get over the hump, because exactly that, he's been absolutely sensational. So hopefully he comes back showing that type of form next year as well, because I would actually quite like him to go on and win it now. You've had that kind of setback, and obviously he's shown a lot of resilience this year in terms of injury, racing through injuries, etc., etc. I mean, the mentality levels to win 5 Grand Prix in a row is unprecedented as well. So let's hope he can come back next year as well. One of the battles that we did speak about last week that was up for grabs, because obviously we had these all these wee subplots, as we say. We just spoke about Dan getting over the line against Freddie. Um, Robert and Max was obviously one that we'd spoke about in terms of that seventh place, Mitchell. I know for both of us, we had both said that Max would basically be able to hold on for seventh. Gavin Parr, who was with us last week, had predicted that Robert would get there, which turned out to be correct. Obviously, not the greatest evenings for both, but Robert just having that better night on the night really seen him through, and I feel sorry for Max. As I said last week, I feel as if all in all, Max has been probably quite unlucky this year in the series in general. I feel as if he's probably been better valued than being a top 8 rider. I think he's been better than that, just my own personal opinion. But Robert sealing that and sealing his spot for 2026, no sweating, no waiting on wild cards. And I do worry that if Max is going to get that kind of wild card spot now.
Yeah, there's lots of questions to be asked, and when I'm not sure when they make that decision. I'm sure there's lots of hats being thrown into the ring already in the FIM jury board about who or what that you get one. But yeah, that's what. Either way, one of them, was getting. Yes, you're in. You can build now for next season, and the other one sweating on a wild card. Obviously, permutation that we spoke about was it seemed more fitting Robert would get one, but if they look back at Max's season, what there was an incident at Manchester which made him miss out on something just due to some sort of silly rule, and just a lot of things that just didn't go his way.
Yeah.
So for me, a top 8 spot is still deserving, and I really hope that they see that. But yeah, at the end of the day, I don't think anyone seen what was coming with the wild cards this year. So yeah, leave it up to the powers that be, and I'm sure we'll have a debrief once the news comes out.
Yeah.
There'll
I
be
mean,
lots of names.
yeah, there will be lots of names kind of getting fired about, but obviously the ones that you're kind of looking at and expecting, I think with Hülkenberg, Kvek, Vakulik, I think they've had their day in the sun when it comes to wild cards. It's time to qualify again. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do in terms of that for next year. And obviously, it looks as though we're going to get Patrick Dudek in there as well through the European Championship Series as well. By the way, no, do you know what? I'll hold that for another podcast. The rant I was just about to go on, so I'll bite my tongue with that one, and we'll move on. Michael Jepsen Jensen. In terms of the wild card, we know we're going to see him in the Grand Prix series next year by all accounts. But he looked good. He's had a fantastic season. Definitely a purple patch in his career over the last couple of years. His form in Poland's been excellent. He's definitely one that showed a bit of resilience in his career, because we know he's been in the Grand Prix before, maybe set him back a wee bit in his career, but now he's definitely shown every bit of potential he showed as a youngster, and I would say he's going to be a great addition to the Grand Prix series.
Yeah, he brings a different aspect, a different riding style, a different the way he attacks different tracks. For me, he was quite unheard of, and I think he joined last year. He joined Grosjean's when Jason Doyle got injured, and then his name sort of just seemed to keep cropping up, and his results kept picking up, and yeah, now he's found himself in a position. He's in the Grand Prix in 2026, and I'm sure he's going to relish the opportunity. He's more mature now. He's not one of the young guys. He's a sort of, well, he's not old by any means, but he's an elder statesman, and he's got the experience behind him. So I'm sure he's going to be there to do the business.
Absolutely. And Saturday night brought to an end our Fantasy Force competition. So
God.
I'll just pick up on a point for Chris here as well. That better be a rant at the SEC champ shouldn't be in. Nonsense rule. You'll need to listen to future episodes there, Chris, and we'll discuss that. Don't nab me at Glasgow and ask me all about it if you're going to make a trip through for the fight. Just let it be, and you can hear it alongside everybody else. Fantasy Fours, obviously, I took a lead into the last Grand Prix of the season. Mitchell, you did beat me on the night. 47 points to 44. Laura got 44 points in the last night. The Talk Speedway fans were represented by Emma King, who scored 41. Graham scored 40. BSN's Martin Hunter scored 44. And Greg, 40 again. Absolutely hopeless at this game. Greg is the perennial wooden spooner at this game. That then means, because of the advantage that I held, that I win the Fantasy Fours competition this year, the first time that's ever happened. Graham's normally in the top step every year. He only managed to finish 5th this year. He's not been paying attention. See this getting married, Lark? It just knocks you off a kilter and puts all your fantasy sports on the back burner, doesn't it? It's a shame when that happens. So I came first with 342, finishing score. Mitchell 338, Laura 331. Podium place for Laura as well. Well done. The fans finished 4th with 330 points. Graham 328, BSN 321, and Greg on 292. Now I want to just Fantasy Fours trophy right here. Just like to say a massive thank you to everybody for their help and support over the last year. I'd like to thank our Lord and Saviour Jesus Christ for all his love and support over my lifetime as well. To put me in the...
I feel a bit like Brady. The first round, I got absolutely pumped. The first Grand Prix of the year. And I've been chipping away, working my butt off, and I feel like Brady Kurtz. I've just missed out at the final. Bill, that last little edge.
If you look,
I won the final round, and I still.
If you look back at the scores, Mitchell, both Greg Blair and Martin Hunter were awfully cocky after the first round, but it's amazing. Life will catch up with you at some point. So yeah, I would just like to say thank you very much to everyone for the help and support and winning the Fantasy Fours competition. It's been an absolute pleasure running it this year. Thanks to all the fans who joined in. Go back through it. Count the scores, old son. Listen, it's always good to win your own game. I can't remember what it's called. Oh yeah, Talk Speedway fans. Thanks to everybody who participated in this. I know a lot of people play along at home as well. Thank you for doing that. It makes it feel all the worthwhile when people are joining in. And thank you to everybody who submitted teams over across the season as well. If we didn't get to you, try again next year. That's what we'll do. We'll do it all again next year as well for the Fantasy Fours. One thing though, Mitch, everybody seems to have forgot about it. Still get the Speedway Nations to come this year.
Meh.
Well, the reason I bring it up is because Australia should be in a very, very strong position going into that one.
Should be. Yes, it should be. That's what all the abilities are there, but again, you're in Poland, you're in Torun for it, so the Polish side's always going to come with a strong team. But at the end of the day, it comes down to team riding, and they
quite a strong team.
Obviously, Brady's had a stellar season, but I don't know how well he's gone at Torun. Yeah. Jack Holder used to ride for Torun. I can only presume he'll be the pair. But yeah, that's what it's weird that it's at the end of the season. It feels odd because it's normally that summer break filler.
Yeah.
So it's I mean, with so much going on with the championship, premiership at the moment, it's sort of back burner. And then I'm sure as that weekend approaches, it'll, the excitement will ramp up, and obviously you get the qualifiers during the week and things like that. So yeah, the attention will turn to the Speedway Nations closer to the time.
It's hard work being this side of the fence, isn't it, Mitchell? When you've got to keep up with all the results, what's happening everywhere, and etc. etc. I have to think riding's hard. You thought riding was hard. You should try being on this side of the fence.
Hey, and 9 times out of 10, I don't even fill a program in on the night. I just try and add it, and it's hard work keeping. There's obviously there's a lot of people that love the stats and who's top average. Didn't work a normal job. It's busy, and yeah, just staying on top of it. Very hard work.
Exactly. Yes, it is hard work. But that'll bring to an end this week's podcast. As I say, we've still got lots to talk about through the rest of the season. We mentioned the Speedway Nations there, another big event that's happening out a season as well. But we've got lots and lots to talk about still over the next few weeks with the Premiership and Championship conclusions. We've obviously got the Speedway Nations coming up, so lots more podcasts to come as well. We've got a few guests lined up over the next couple of weeks as well, so keep an eye on our social media. You can follow us on Facebook, X, and Instagram for all the latest. We've obviously got a YouTube channel as well, which we're streaming on tonight as well. So if you want to go back and watch any of the episodes, you can do that on Facebook and on YouTube. And of course, if you've missed any, if you've wanted to listen to the full show and you've maybe only caught part of this evening's show, you can do so by listening on Spotify, Apple, and Amazon Music as well. Again, thank you to all our sponsors, Stakeford Tyres, ESS and LVT, and of course our associated partner in Speedway Riders Benevolent Fund even, easy for me to say, who do have the world, we are invited, sorry you're not, some of us are invited to the World Speedway Riders Association dinner by the Ben Fund for this year, who I noticed has got Bruce Pennell as the special guest. Maybe reach out to Bruce, see if he fancies doing a wee podcast with us as well. You never know. Reach for the moon and all that, and you might catch a couple of stars. But until next week on Talk Speedway Weekly, goodbye.